Hello, this is Ryan back again with week 3 of Impact 2022. First of all, I want to get a kind of quick message out of the way, thanking anybody who has watched this long. As you can tell, this isn't quite a professional production. Right now, I am recording in a different location than I normally do, so you may be picking up different noises, and maybe picking up cat noises as they crawl around. Basically, long story short, I've been kind of reorganizing stuff around my house, and then I got sick beginning of the week. Thankfully, nothing serious, just a bunch of things kind of happening one after the other that I'm still kind of getting over. I think I'm over it mostly now, and it's Friday when I'm recording this. So I had to move. I'm recording now on my work station, my work from home station, which is my kitchen table, which already has two computers on it. Um, Now a third and a microphone, and sometimes cats like to climb up here while I'm doing stuff. So this may be a problem, but we will power through. I guess. So yeah. Like I said, thanks if you've lasted this long. I know. There's a few of you out there that are at least keeping track. So I appreciate you guys. With that out of the way, let's go into the news of the week. Speaking of not professional, this is where I read off of a Word document of things that happened, and we'll probably splice stuff in here very sloppily. So, for the beginning of the week, or really the end of last week, beginning of this week, we had a bunch of shows happen elsewhere. Um, I'll go into those later, a little bit later. A list of retirement announcements. I'm pretty sure these are more people that have announced that they are going to retire within 3 months or so. Genichiro Tenryu, Tatsumi Fujinami, Robert Fuller, Satoshi Kojima, Scott Norton, who was actually announced his retirement before in that first week that I had to redo. Mikey Whipwreck, Masquerita Sagrada, and The Cat have all announced. I'm sure there's other Japanese names that I didn't recognize that announced it. So, um, AEW, I put down that Dax Harwood suffered a minor injury, but it's so minor that it wasn't expected that he would miss any ring time. So I put that there, but really no other AEW news. NWA actually has some big news out of nowhere. They released a bunch of talent, a bunch of top talent, actually. They released Homicide and Tim Storm, which is now the best team that never was. Aaron Stevens, Mike Bennett, Chris Adonis slash Masters, Nick Aldis, who I thought was their figurehead. I never really looked to see who their figurehead was, but in real life, if you asked me, it would have been, Nick Aldis. Dirty Dango, and Bill Barons, along with a bunch of other behind the scenes people. That was all in like one day, and they didn't seem like that was probably like Saturday or Sunday, and they haven't released any since. So, but that is a lot of big names to let go of. So yeah, we wonder what's going on the NWA side. And JPW at one of their shows, the Gorillas of Destiny regained the IWGP Tag Team titles from the Dangerous Techers. So that's big news for them. NXT, this is kind of where we get into the goofy stuff. NXT had a takeover on Saturday. LA Knight won the North American title from Carmelo Hayes, which, it probably isn't that sound that goofy. But Samoa Joe won the 24/7 title from Dana Brooke. And that was the main event too. That was the main event of Takeover was Samoa Joe versus Dana Brooke somehow. And then on NXT TV that week on Wednesday, Samoa Joe won the NXT title from Tommaso Ciampa. So don't know why that wasn't the Takeover main event. But I guess Samoa Joe is now double champ. Maybe he doesn't regret signing, not, getting his old job back. Um, Somehow making, it's up to you if you want to see if you think being NXT champ and 24/7 champ are better than, his current situation. PWG had a major show that I will splice the results in here. The major after last week's uh announcement that Ryback had signed with PWG on a handshake deal. It is official that Ryback and Super Dragon are now a team, so I think they might have replaced Homicide and Tim Storm as the best slash worst fantasy team. And then on their major show, they had I don't remember if it was their main event, but the team of Ryback and Super Dragon defeated the team of Keith Lee and Orange Cassidy, who would probably actually make a great team. So there was that. They also did hire Jesse Goddard, who is popping up elsewhere. I know he was, uh, I think, booked for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and amongst other places, and he'll show up later. Um, AIW had a major show this past weekend. Originally, I wasn't going to look at it, but the pop up that Tim Donst and Manders had started a team as Power and Glory, just straight up taking the old name from the 80s, um, had me look at it. And first of all, I noticed that the show didn't even take place in Cleveland. I think it was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So they're branching out to Swoggle's territory up there. And then the main event was Matt Cardona retaining the title against Shane Douglas and Tommy Rich in a triple threat match. So probably Matt Cardona was the only person leaving his feet in that match, which made it all the funnier because on their Go for Broke show that week, the day after, well, not the day after, but like the days after, he defended the title once again against Eddie Kingston and Lee Moriarty in a triple threat match. So again, I don't know why that wasn't the major show match, but I guess John Thorne knows what he's doing out there. And also the Duke and PB Smooth are a team. I don't remember their name, but I thought that was kind of a cool pairing. PB Smooth possibly selling out to the Duke. Also, something I'll have to follow up on. Matt Cardona in these results is retaining or defending the Intense Championship, which in real life he holds both the Absolute and Intense, and the Intense is like the secondary title, for lack of a better word. So I don't know if this mod actually has him holding both or considers the Intense title to be both. Whatever, I will have to look at that later. Defy Wrestling continues their hiring. Seems to be in the opposite situation of the NWA, where NWA is releasing talent, Defy is adding. They added PJ Black, Jesse Goddard, Jeff Hardy was the major one, and then Austin Aries. So, um, and then finally, for major show happenings, Shimmer had a show in our Kimberly, who I haven't been using but probably will in the near future, won the Heart of Shimmer title from Nevea. Um, so that was the news from the beginning of the week. The closer to Impact, we had some more behind the scenes news. Um, our deal with AAA has kind of been amended, I guess. Well, first of all, AAA just decided to go ahead and end like all their deals with IWRG, who I'm not really familiar with, but basically to the point that they are at war. And then not really necessarily coming after us, but they did um sorry, cat squeak in the background. Impact AAA has amended, I guess, our deal, but from the sounds of it, it sounds like we can't send any of our talent to them for excursion. But I never really planned on doing that anyway. I only really planned on using their talent, which we kind of are now. We actually have like three of their champions on our roster. So that's not a really huge deal for us, but something we can keep an eye on. Um, but with their thing with IWRG is like major. Like they just cut them off completely. Like refuse to do any business with them or are practically at war with them. So hopefully we won't get that far. We are considered as like a minorly negative relationship with them, while or IWRG is a major negative relationship. So something to keep an eye on. Um, I was fooling around with rosters. I saw that Eric Young was available for surgery for the injury that I didn't know he had, which was a complete ACL tear. I think it was set for he was set to be out for like over 8 months, and they said surgery was available, so I took it, and it was a complete success. So he's set to return in about 5 months instead of 8 or more. So that's good. Um, and then I saw like the next person's contract to be running out was Rhino, and I offered him a contract extension. He has a written contract. I may have offered him an ironclad clause on accident, and something I will have to go back and check. But honestly, if that's you know if that helps, that helps. Rhino is considered a road agent with us, so even if we don't use him on screen, he will definitely be a help out behind the scenes. So we'll see what happens with that. We don't really want another Cardona situation to where he just ends up leaving at the end of the month. So, and we can't do anything about it. So, that's our news leading up to Impact. I will post a brief showing of what I did before the Impact. If you want to look at it again, it's a 30-minute show. I only put like one match on there that doesn't really have, much consequence, but there it is. And I will go ahead and start Impact. Week 2 of the Impact TV after Hard to Kill. So we are kind of seeing, you know, storylines being formed and continuing from where they were. So, and yeah, let's just get into it. Opening contest. Mike Bailey defeating El Phantasmo of the USA contingent of Bullet Club. Again, putting Speedball Mike Bailey over as a um, staple of our X division and newly featured. We want to get him over. Uh, Botched interference by Hikuleo at ringside. Segment rating of 30. After the match, basically Chris Bay comes out with a mic and runs down Hikuleo and El Phantasmo, and he goes basically like, when Jay White came to me and asked me to join the Bullet Club, but I didn't know I was going to basically be babysitting a bunch of rejects. I didn't know I was going to be, the on the B team, as it were, of the Bullet Club. So, you know, I you know I don't know what I'm gonna do. I have some people to talk to. And he basically goes leaves and leaves El Phantasmo and Hikuleo in the dust to fend for themselves. So who knows what the future is for the Bullet Club in Impact. Segment rating of 18. Robert Evans could have done a better job as road agent. I wish. Seems I probably shouldn't book him as a road agent because it seems uh, anything attached to him tends to drop, which is unfortunate. Angle, backstage, we have Brian Myers and VSK, and Brian Myers is like, all right, last week I told, Zicky got cut, he's with Swinger now, and I told you to go get a new protege, so what do you got for me, kid? And VSK is like, all right, I got a wrestler, but he's a double threat. We got, he's an okay wrestler, but he'll do our taxes really good, And he's like, and Brian Myers is like, what are you talking about? Like, what's wrong with you? He introduces Nick Stapp, CPA, and Myers refuses to shake his hand. He's like, who is this kid? He's like, you know, I don't, what, however he's in the ring is debatable, but, tax time's coming up, and you know how much taxes suck when you're an independent contractor. And Myers Shark's like, yeah, you're kind of right, but he's like, whatever, he's here to wrestle, and I have a match set up for him, and if he wins this, he can stay. So, and it's up next. So, VSK and Nick Stapp go out to the ring. Segment rating of 19. I'm actually giving Nick Stapp a tax collector gimmick. It's got an initial rating of poor, so he is, wrestling as the CPA in his shirt and tie. And in the match, um, Nick Stapp defeats Caleb with a K in a comedy match that doesn't they didn't really click. Segment rating of 7. Basically, the story here is Caleb is kind of lost without he's been booted by the now Aussie invasion of Tennille and Cassie Lee and Jesse McKay. So he's kind of lost, and that leaves him to be uh, rolled up with a distraction from VSK and apparently a handful of tights. So Nick Stapp stays underneath the learning tree of Brian Myers. Afterwards, we get basically a kind of an in-ring promo from uh, Savannah Evans and Tasha Steeles. Um, Savannah kind of explains she was scouting Tasha Steeles in the week before Hard to Kill, and she kind of hung back, and she was like, you know, I, 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 I can respect you going for the singles title, but I've also believed that you and I, as a unit, we can go after the knockouts tag team titles and be a legit threat, and that you know I know you tried to do your thing and it didn't quite work out, but stick with me. We can. I know you've been there before. With your smarts, my brawn, my strength. We can do this. We can be a threat to the knockouts title. That brings out Lady Frost, and they're kind of insulted that she would interrupt them. And they're like, didn't we teach you a lesson last week? And they start beating her down again, which actually brings out Masha Slamovich for the save. Um, Evans and Steeles kind of back out of the ring, leaving Masha to surprisingly help up Lady Frost. Masha's kind of been billed as like a careless, no, not careless, but cold, emotionless killer. But I guess that would kind of fit with Lady Frost, being cold and all. So, it looks like we have yet another possible team for, we have one definite team, hopefully going for the Knockouts tag team titles, and one, you know, new burgeoning team, I guess, possibly. With a segment rating of 22. The segment kind of went a little long, but whatever. Backstage, we have the X Division champion Trey Miguel and Chris Sabin kind of hanging out chatting when Quinn McKay comes up and gets between them, and she's like, you know, again wants to get a scoop, and she's like, "Hey, what's going on between you guys? And is there any heat between you? I know you guys are kind of angling for a match with each other." And they're like, "Yeah, we're just chilling out, trying to get to, Saban's like, I'm trying to maybe get to know my possible opponent here. I know we don't have anything finalized, but, maybe, we can come together and, have hopefully have a match soon." And their whole thing is interrupted by Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. Ace does a lot of the talking here, and he's like, "Oh, the great Chris Sabin. I know, you know, you're trying to get one last run as X Division champion, but you know, don't let the world forget that I've beaten you, and you're not that great." And Sabin gets up in Austin's face, and he's like, "I don't think anyone should be bragging about who's been beaten by who when you got beat by Zicky Dice last week," which sends Austin angry and mad, and he's like, "You know what? You're gonna insult me like that. How about the two of you and the two of us in a match next week?" And Sabin and Miguel are like, "Yeah, that's fine by us." So yeah, it looks like we got Sabin and Miguel versus Austin and Fulton next week with a rating of 25. In his quest to get a tag title shot against the Good Brothers, Eddie Edwards defeated Diener. Um, it's not listed here, but Joe Doring is here and he is at ringside, but he was a non-factor in the match. He basically stood by and watched, and this was a clean fight. On Eddie Edwards got the uh, win here, even though he seemed off his game. So basically, Um, he's one step closer to getting his tag team title shot, but he has to go through Joe Doring next. And then we get a pre-tape segment where basically Johnny Swinger is with Zicky Dice, Hernandez, and Johnny Bravo. Um, Looks like they're like outside of a meeting room. Johnny Swinger's wearing a tie, but also like no shirt or anything. And he's trying to get everyone else to wear ties, trying to get Hernandez to wear tie over his, thug wear. Johnny Bravo's, already wearing a tie with his sparkly jacket or whatever, so he doesn't need one. But he's like, if I want to get this, Johnny Swinger's like, if I want to get Swinger's Palace back up and running, I had to have a meeting with a big investor, and I want everybody on the top of their game. So Zicky, I want you to bring the luck you've been having. Hernandez, I want you to bring the muscle, and Bravo, I want you to bring whatever it is the hell that you bring. And we need to impress this investor to make sure we get the funding to get Swingers Palace up and running. So they all kind of have like a rah rah moment, and they open the door to this uh, conference room where there's a table and it's all dark and spooky and smoky, and there's one chair at the end of this conference table that's faced with the back against the camera, and it spins around, and it's Father James Mitchell. And James Mitchell is like, "I understand you need an investor," and he has an evil maniacal laugh, and we get a to be continued um, message. So Father James Mitchell is back in Impact. He has gotten a rating of very good for a Sinister Mister gimmick, which should be good. Uh, should be good because he's had it all of his life. Segment rating of 25, and we will probably see where that goes next week. And then we get a big celebration for Deanna Purrazzo. She comes out. She has like basically the ring is has like a red carpet, has like sparkly streamers or whatever on the ring ropes, and then there's three pillars. One has the AAA Reina de Reinas title on it. One has the center one has the TNA Knockouts title, and then the third one has the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. And basically, Deanna Prazzo comes out and cuts a long speech about how she is basically the greatest women's wrestling champion in history, and all that, which causes Mickie James to basically go nuts and have a brawl. She comes out, they brawl, they knock over all these pillars that were holding up the titles. Deanna collects her belts. Um, Matthew Waywell, I don't have him here, but I'm sure he helps her collect all the belts, and Mickie James basically just goes crazy, just ripping the setup to shreds. So she's hot at you know this basically the disrespect she's been getting. So segment rating of 35. Their storyline has advanced and gained heat. And then we go to a backstage segment where uh, DK of Rosemary and Havoc are backstage. We haven't really seen Rosemary since she won the number one contendership to the Knockouts title at Hard to Kill. So they're kind of talking. Gail Kim runs up to them, and Rosemary and basically speaks to Rosemary directly, and she's like, I know I know you earned that number one contendership, and I know you might be, expecting a title match at the next pay per view or big event or whatever we have, but I'm gonna have to ask you to hold us back. Mickie James, I know she was my friend, but she was unfairly robbed, and I'm trying to get her proper rematch towards the title. And Rosemary goes to speak, but Havoc interrupts her, and she, she's like, that's good. She'll say yes. She'll take uh, her shot later. And Rosemary's like, well, we don't think we need you to speak for us. And Havoc is like, well, we have a uh, Knockouts tag team title shot next week, and I need you to be focused. And they kind of get in each other's faces, and Gail is just kind of like, well, what does it mean? I know, you have a Knockouts tag team title shot, but, Rosemary, what do you say? I'm sorry to have to do this, but, you can still have your title shot at a later date. And Rosemary's like, fine, we'll postpone it till later. Gail Kim is like, okay, good. She goes to turn away, and she runs straight into Steve Macklin. And Macklin is pissed. He's like, I can't believe you basically screwed me out of another X Division title shot. And Gail is like, you know what? I can't stand you. I can't stand this X Division crap. And Macklin's like, all due respect of what you've done, you don't know how the X Division works. You don't know, what, you know. Sorry, I'm kind of sorry. My cat's kind of distracting me. I thought he was eating something, or she was eating something. Well, basically, Steve Macklin's like, you don't know what, you know, the X Division's all about. You weren't a part of it. You may be a Knockouts legend, but you have no business poking your nose into X Division business. And Gail's like, you're right. This is bullcrap. Whatever. Just leave me alone. And Macklin says, does that mean you're gonna turn over the stipulation? I can get my X Division title shot. And Gail's like, no, that still stands. I'm just, you know, well, I'm just agreeing with you that I am, don't shouldn't be here to deal with all of your crap, so I'm getting out of here. Um, so, you know, Macklin's basically even more pissed than he was before. Flustered Gail Kim, and that gets a segment rating of 25%. For the digital media title, Jordan Grace defeated Chelsea Green. I think I had this, yeah, going 13 minutes. Kind of a little bit long. It's not saying it's long, so hopefully they did pretty well. Segment rating of 27, but basically, um, the story here is that Green could not get the job done over the uh, strength of Jordan Grace, and she did not win the digital media title as she wanted. We go backstage, and Jonathan Gresham, with his Ring of Honor World Championship, is watching the monitor, and he's celebrating. He's like, yeah, celebrating his wife's win, title defense. And Cardona just runs up and, interrupts him. And Gresham's all defensive, and Cardona's like, whoa, you know, I know what this looks like. I know you're probably thinking I'm here to defend Chelsea's honor, but, you know, that has nothing to do with me. I'm only here for that. And he points at the Ring of Honor World title. And Gresham's a little confused, and Cardona goes into a rant. He's like, I came here 1 year ago to Impact, and I wanted to be world champion. It hasn't happened yet. Blah 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 blah. The speech he's been doing the past couple weeks, and he's like, if I'm not going to be the Impact World Champion, I'm at least going to take that belt, the Ring of Honor World Championship, from you. What do you say? And he puts his hand out for a handshake, and he's like, come on, honor all this crap. What, this is your thing. Whatever, what do you say about to this? And Gresham shakes his hand. They stare each other down, and we have a match for next week for the Ring of Honor World Title between Cardona and Gresham. Segment rating of 30. And then in the main event, Josh Alexander defeated Morrissey in the match to crown a number one contender to the Impact World title. Um, I had this go long, and it looks like it went a little too long. Morrissey was really off of his game. The match went a little too long. Segment rating of 30. But the story here was, near the end of the match, even though Moose said last week that he was not going to appear until his contender was crowned, he decides to come out with his world title, and it looks like he tried to hit Josh Alexander with the title belt, but hits Morrissey instead. Um, Moose is pissed. He grabs his belt and stomps out of the ring. Alexander eventually, uh, I'm reading the, sorry, I'm reading the results. Josh Alexander did not use the ropes for leverage. He wins clean, as clean as a belt hit from Moose can be. Um, but yeah, basically this is setting up Josh Alexander versus Moose for the world title. And this, confirms Alexander as the number one contender. I wish the match came off a little better, but after the match, we basically have Alexander gets his hand raised, and he sees Moose and the title, and he sees basically kind of puts two and two together, and regardless of that, he just wants to get his hands on Moose, so he chases him to the back. Um, and the show ends basically with Moose getting into his car and driving away, um, leaving Josh Alexander fuming, and unable to get his hands on Moose, but eventually he calms down and knows that he's earned his shot, and that will be coming soon. So, um, Moose gets away in a car. Segment rating of 36, and that's the end of the show. Let's see what we got. I'm kind of worried. Overall rating 29, so yeah, that kind of sucks. But yeah, lost popularity to increased region to 31, and then interesting storylines, which is basically, what it's been. I was kind of hoping, um, I don't know, maybe I had a little too much hope, but I was kind of hoping some of these storylines would be better. Kind of hoping this angle that I have with Brian Myers and the Learning Tree. Um, Wish it wasn't bogged down with relatively unknown, but that's kind of the point, I guess, of the whole thing. Uh, so yeah, that sets us up toward another week of Impact. We'll have um, Cardona and Gresham for the Ring of Honor World Title, and we'll have Eddie Edwards versus Joe Doring. Hopefully, as long as he's not stuck in Japan again, for next week. And then we go from there, and we, on the road towards the next big event, which is No Surrender in mid-February. So we still have quite a bit of time. We still have about a month, another month's worth of build towards all that. So yeah. Again, if you've watched this long, thank you and congratulations. Hopefully, you know, don't really know what else to say. So I will say goodbye and thank you.